Good morning, I'm Philip Rice from St Giles Church in Desborough, and last week I did a thought for the day for them, for St Giles, about poverty and our response to it as Christians. You may have seen that thought for the day, but this week I want to continue that same theme because the Bible is full of references to poverty and about what our response should be. The history of the people of God is a bit like a game of snakes and ladders. One minute they're up, the next another shake of the dice and they seem to be down at the bottom again. These ongoing struggles are documented by various different Old Testament authors, but they all tell the same up and down reality. We read of failed kings, grumbling people, false prophets, idolatry, selfishness and greed. We're also confronted with the neglect of those for whom poverty and oppression was a painful reality. Now, poverty continued to exist in Israel, and the reality of debt and slavery marched on. Israel failed to live by God's wisdom, and this became a key part of the reason why they were sent into painful exile from the land given to them by their covenant God. As they continued to drift further away from God, there are nevertheless many voices speaking out against issues of injustice and poverty, calling God's people to turn back to the creation mandate, back to the call of Abraham and the heart of the law. The prophet Isaiah was chief amongst these voices. He spoke judgment, gave warnings and uttered prophecies. His elegant poetry about a suffering servant stands out for its power and beauty. Then we get his proclamation in Isaiah 61 about a year of the Lord's favour and this idea of a jubilee year. Good news for the poor, freedom for the captives. Unfortunately, this concept failed to take root in Israel's life, and that of course led to more poverty and debt, which was not being kept in check. And this failure doesn't change God's commitment to the eradication of poverty and to provide and care for the most oppressed and the most distressed. So Isaiah speaks of a future year of favour which will be brought into reality by one anointed by the Lord. There are other voices too amongst the prophets. There's Amos the shepherd. He blasted Israel for being a people who trample the needy and go away and do away with the poor of the land. Micah the farmer chastised Israel's leaders for taking advantage of those in poverty and summed up the priorities of God as to act justly, to love mercy and to walk humbly with God. At the end of the Old Testament, the people are back in Israel and Jerusalem, but God is no longer in the temple. Fast forward 400 years until Jesus appears on the scene and they're living under Roman occupation. Poverty, sickness and hardship continue. The beginning of Jesus' ministry is marked by his reading of that same passage from Isaiah 61, framing his ministry through the Jubilee prophecy, linking back to Deuteronomy 15 and Leviticus 25. As he says elsewhere, he didn't come to abolish the law and the prophets, but to fulfill them. An outstanding feature of the early church, as we can read in Acts chapter 2, is that they went out of their way to ensure that no one was in need. This is how it should be in the kingdom of God. And it's our responsibility to fight against poverty and do everything we can to ensure that no one goes without. I believe there's a general election going on and we get to vote quite soon. But there's still time for various candidates and party representatives to knock on your door. And there's one particular question I think we should be asking any of them. What is your party's plan to eliminate poverty? Christians Against Poverty issue figures which suggest that the number of people in poverty has increased from 13.4 million last year to 14.4 million this year. At the same time, the richest 1,000 people in the country have got richer and are now worth over £1 trillion between them, so that's £1 billion each on average. Whatever's been happening recently needs obviously to be reversed. We need positive action to address poverty. We need a Jubilee policy, and we need it now. God bless you.